Hey, welcome to Feedback for the week of April 3rd, 2012. Today, we're going to talk the ending of Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. I mean, Mass Effect 3. Again, my esteemed panel of colleagues here. Going to start this off with the 10 words or less, keeping with the theme of today's conversation. Nicole, your favorite video game ending in 10 words or less? Oh, look at that. Couldn't even remember 10 words. That's interesting.
Portal's ending rocked. Wait, they changed it with a patch.
Nice.
That's right.
That's very disappointing.
Oh, that's right. They changed it. It's still art, though. Just wanted to...
Man.
Ouch.
That's interesting. I can't wait for you to bring that up later. But the opposite of that when we talk about Mass Effect 3's ending, when they also probably change it with a patch. Steve Johnson, 10 words or less, favorite video game ending.
To piss off Nicole, I'll pick Mass Effect 3.
Oh,
He's a liar, though, so...
He's a liar.
I think that Donnell and I really don't even need to be here today because I feel like the conversation between
gonna
the
be
two
them
of
too.
you
We've been arguing
is
for
going to
about
be
a month.
He's gonna enjoy
rough,
the show.
have been
right?
arguing for a month over
Steve's
this.
like, Nicole's like, alternative energy. Steve's like, fossil fuels. Two different generations. Donnell, 10 words or less.
All right. Sega Rally Championship 1995. The ending was game over, yeah! And that was it.
What? What?
Best game ending, period.
Well, you can sing.
Can you do that
Yeah,
again?
Thank you. Only one time, sorry.
All right, it's fair.
Can
The
you
other
drop
time,
it?
I'll have to charge you.
All right, that's fair. We can't afford that. So
really can't, though, so...
mine will be my short term. I'm going to put short term together. My short term memory is Sojourney. Because that's literally the only thing I could remember. Because as you get older, you get more tired and things of that nature. You know, so. But my opinion of Journey doesn't matter. We're here to talk Mass Effect 3's ending. Again, we've avoided it for the last couple weeks so that everybody on the planet could finish playing this game. Obviously, people have very strong opinions. But before we get into what we felt about it, and then, of course, you guys' questions as well, Nicole, why don't you just quickly give us kind of a rundown, a timeline of everything that happened, starting with the day the game shipped and people first started experiencing that ending.
Yeah, so March 6th, we began to see a outcry of people disappointed with the ending. That number seemed to grow. There was an entire movement called Retake Mass Effect, Twitter page, Facebook, an online petition which garnered thousands and thousands of signatures urging BioWare to change the ending. Eventually, these user reviews affected Metacritic, it affected Amazon. A lot of journalists called these gamers entitled, and there was kind of a backlash within the community between people who were like, yay, the ending's fine, and then people who were like, boo, no, it's not. I kind of summarized it. I summarized
exactly
it
how
for
they
time
did it.
Summarize
purposes.
the arguments.
And, you know, and one fan even went as far to file a complaint with the FTC, false advertisement against EA.
What important to note? One fan did that, right? Okay.
One dude.
Okay.
Not representative of the Retake Mass Effect movement. And then eventually this caused Ray Mizuka to address the fans, say that he appreciates their feedback, and they're going to address it by making content initiatives, which does not mean a new ending.
Right.
But it means
That we know of
something.
yet. Right.
It means something.
Okay, so I want to break this down in a couple different sections before we get into the larger conversation. The first one being the Metacritic, the way that it affected Metacritic. So on a critical level, Metacritic got it, it's like a 93, right? According to your thing here. However, user score is a 4.9, and then on Amazon it has 2 stars, but again, there's no differentiation between critical and like a fan reaction on Amazon. But my question is, when BioWare looks at something like a Metacritic score, are they looking at the critical acclaim, or are they looking at the person that's spending the money on it? Because I look at those two numbers and I go, well, critics are one thing, but these are the people that are paying money, and they hated this.
Right.
And will this affect the way that developers develop things in the future? We've had much larger conversations about Metacritic and how important or how not important it is to the gaming industry, but what does this mean to developers when they see something like this? This drastic divide between the 2 scores here.
Well, I mean, we saw with, I think, Obsidian a few weeks ago that they were denied a bonus because their Metacritic score for Fallout New Vegas was not high enough by 1 point. So Metacritic definitely matters to these developers and publishers. And I think that the review score is great the first week the game comes out because that's all there is. But at the end of the day, those people were probably sent the game for free, and they're not the ones spending their money. And I think that, I don't know if they're more important, but I definitely think user scores have to be at least equally important.
Right. Now, Steve, I see the look on your face, which leads me to believe that you think that user score is incredibly important, and that's unfortunate if that's the case.
Exactly. I agree that the user score is probably very important, but I do not feel that a 2-star rating on Amazon accurately reflects the quality of Mass Effect 3. I feel like there was sort of a...
But that's not really...
but that's what I'm saying, is that, like, what a shame if publishers' money or developers' money is based on that score that is coming from a herd mentality on the internet and not from a place of real understanding of the quality of the game that's released.
Dano, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I would have to kind of agree on both sides a little bit.
No, I agree more.
And it's because like it is important to them. I mean, it's important to the shareholders, and definitely they're making these games to make a profit. They're trying to get their product out there. But also to have it judge on users who are, I'm not saying are not, entitled to their opinion. They have all the right to do that. Those are the ones they're trying to get to. I kind of feel then they make a model off of the users, and they think of games that will just please the user. So it's not a being creative or innovating. It's just.
But should they be making games to appease reviewers?
Yeah, they. But see,
consumer?
if it matters more on the user, like just the people who are paying it, because like when we review games, we mostly get them for free, and it is important for us for them to give a good score to the game. But I feel that if it's on the Metacritic, if it's too much on user base, then they're designing games just to satisfy the users, so then they can get that extra bonus.
But there's a lot more going on with critical reviews of games than people getting the games for free. I mean, the people that we have at G4 reviewing games are people that have a history and a knowledge of the industry that is deeper than the average consumer, because that's their profession. That's what they do for their job, and they're people who have a special interest and a special view of the industry itself, of the history of the industry, of the context in which games are released, and that's why you trust reviewers' voices more than you trust just some guy on the street, because that's what they do for work. It's not just a hobby. It's their profession and their life.
Right. And I'm going to play devil's advocate this entire episode just so we can, because we all have such different opinions, and there's really not enough time for personally for me to have an opinion on this episode. But I see what you're saying, but let's just look at it from a different point of view. Just because we've been exposed to the industry more than maybe the average person, because maybe we have access to more games, does that make us more qualified to kind of talk about the quality of a game, would be my question. Because, I do consider, again, we've already established the fact that gaming journalism is kind of a funny term and probably shouldn't be tossed around, because at the end of the day, we're not really journalists as much as we are people that, again, are critics that have a bigger forum, I would say, than most people to talk about games. But are we more qualified than, say, the average consumer because we get to play 50 games a year compared to their 15 games a year? Would be my question. What do you guys think on that?
On a comparison level, I think that we have the ability to say, if you only have a certain amount of money set aside to buy a certain amount of games each year, and I've played 50 from the year, and I can tell you which ones are worth your money, I think in that sense I'm just as qualified. But I think when it comes down to it, you have your own taste when it comes to games.
Right.
And so unless you find a reviewer that matches your taste, you're not always going to agree with the reviewer.
Right. I mean, I think that's the fundamental thing that most people are missing in this argument, especially when journalists called fans entitled. The fundamental thing is that we all love video games. And just because you don't love the kind of video games I love doesn't mean that I'm wrong, and vice versa. And I think that's a lot of people are missing that because they're so concerned with this one ending, and then people are like, well, you just don't know what you're talking about because we play games all the time, so we know more. But they love games just as much as we do, and vice versa. And I think that people are really missing out on that. And that's why we got into this industry, because I'm not making a joke here. There's no woe is me. But if we wanted to make more money doing television and writing about things, we would not be working at G4. And I'm not saying that we're all eating, but covering video games on television, you guys, doesn't pay as well as covering other things on television. But we're all here because we love video games.
And because it's super fun.
And it's super fun.
Yeah,
like we get to do this as a job. And at the end of the day, we all love games, and so it kind of hurts me to see people clashing. When at the end of the day, it's like we're all fighting about something that we
There
both
was a lot
love.
of name calling
And
over
there's a lot
something
of-
pretty trivial.
But
Right.
but don't you think, like, I kind of feel like it's healthy that I mean, people are so passionate about video games, about what they love, that they're willing to, like, really mix it up because they want video games to be awesome.
Yeah.
But
And like these conversations do that. They
Right.
make games more better.
But would you
Calling
say that
games
more
a
better?
title doesn't.
Right, that doesn't. And would you say that mixing it up and fighting the way that this fight has played out publicly, is this making video games more awesome, or is this doing nothing but handcuffing developers and publishers and saying, "Man, we don't want to. We need to figure out what's the best possible scenario for the largest group of people as possible," or because I don't feel like we're enabling people like the employees of BioWare who, yes, we have spent a lot of time with this franchise as consumers, but I assure you, the 100 hours we've individually put in this game is nothing compared
That's
to
a
the
week.
thousands and thousands of hours that the employees of BioWare have put into this game. So, is
That
it making
100
game-
hours is a week for one
It is.
BioWare
I mean,
employee.
During
So-
crunch time, it is not unreasonable
Yeah.
to expect somebody to work 80 to 90 hours a week on one particular thing. So, is this making games more awesome, or is this hurting the development of games?
The discussion, or
The way that this argument is occurring, the fact that like
I
people
think it's
are
hurting games in the bigger picture. Picture. It's one group that's saying we demand our feedback be heard, and then another group that's kind of bullying that group, and I don't think it's helping anybody.
Steve, what do you think?
Okay, I think first I'm going to state my opinion on the ending so everybody knows where I stand.
Yeah, we should probably get into that too. So,
I think that the ending had some things about it that were sort of corny, but as a whole, I found it to be a very satisfying ending, and it would not have occurred to me that there was any problem with it if it hadn't been for the uproar. I thought it was like a good ending. Like, maybe not the greatest ending I've ever seen, but definitely a worthwhile ending that fit in perfectly with Mass Effect. Like, I
You would use
did
the
not
word
have a problem with it.
perfectly?
The way it fit in, yeah. The way it wrapped up the thematic concerns of Mass Effect, I would say, is perfectly... It was a good ending. I mean, it was good. It wasn't jarring. It didn't strike me as being
Ghost
lacking
children.
in any way.
Ghost children wasn't jarring to you?
The Ghost Child was a little bit corny, but what are you going to do? It's sci-fi. Sci-fi's always a little bit corny.
Right.
I mean, why
don't you clarify what you mean by wrapping things up thematically for the people at home to better understand your opinion on it?
Okay, like one of the main thematic concerns of this is going to sound really pretentious, but one of the main thematic concerns of the Mass Effect of all three games has been the relationship between technology and biology. Okay, and I felt that wrapped up that theme. The other main theme in Mass Effect 3 was the idea of something that is created rebelling against its creator, which I feel wrapped up perfectly in the embodiment of Shepard, presumably with Shepard's creator rebelling against Shepard's creator. Like, I thought that was kind of brilliant, and like I thought it was kind of, I really liked it.
Right.
Like, I thought, I was kind of like, wow, this is awesome. I wish there hadn't been so much baggage ahead of the ending. Like, everybody's saying it was so bad, and everybody's saying it was so bad, because I don't know how much of it was me expecting this horrible, horrible ending and going, no, this isn't horrible at all. It's perfectly serviceable. Like,
Right.
you know, like, I don't.
It's almost the opposite of somebody establishing such high expectations that you don't enjoy something. You were expecting the worst, and so do you feel like maybe that helped a little bit, or
It probably did. It probably could have. I was expecting something that was going to totally be disappointing and not in keeping with the rest of Mass Effect, that was not what I got. It was an epic ending. I mean, that they wrapped up a 50,000-year war between technology and biology with the beginning of civilization and Adam and Eve walking out into the Garden of Eden, except for Eve is a computer. And, like, how can you watch that and not be sort of awed and like, wow, that is respectable.
Wow.
Godchild or not.
that was beautiful, man. Now, do you think that
Yeah,
because
it's
you were in your 20s and the 60s that you're just used to rebelling
the
against the
40s?
the norm? Do you think that had something to do with it?
It could be. You know, I could be coming at this whole argument from an old school point of view for real. Like, for real, because
realsies?
For reals.
No, I mean, like, I honestly feel that there's a special relationship that an artist has with his audience, his or her audience. And I think when you start getting commerce involved and focus groups and all that kind of thing, what happens is the art gets diluted, and things that are challenging and interesting and risky don't get made. And you can see that having happened in the movie industry since like the 1970s to now. And what's weird about the video game industry is the next step is going to be focus grouping these games before they're released and plots and endings that are approved by the masses. And what's weird is that it's gamers themselves that are pushing for it. Like, I don't understand that. And secondly, and this is going to blow your mind.
Oh man,
I was thinking about this with Mass Effect 3. You got this theme where the created beings attack their creators every time. Okay, and BioWare, through years of making incredible games that are risky and deep,
I see where you're going. I see where you're going here, man.
See what I'm saying?
I'm not.
BioWare has created a community of people who love those kind of games, and that created community is rebelling against their creators. Boom!
Boom!
Inception.
Nicole doesn't give a shit about anything that we're celebrating right now.
No.
Lay it down, Nicole.
Before we
Booyah.
get into
Drop the
what
mic.
is clearly
Bring the mic back.
Steve Johnson's like, we can't physically drop that mic
Yeah.
because it is duct taped
It's
together.
already broken. So.
Yeah, but look, this is almost as good. Watch.
Nice. Well done. Now,
Yeah.
but that's some Wolfman Jack right there.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do that.
Nicole, I know. Before we get into what you clearly, every point that you disagree with, I know, Donnell, in the conversations we've had, you agree with the fact that the ending was acceptable. What was your take on the ending before we get into Nicole completely negating everything that the both of you two are saying?
Definitely. My first reaction was that, it was fine. There were some scenes when you go, you're making that decision, you're taking that long path, you're walking towards that decision that you decided to make. I thought it was really well done on that, the design of that. When I saw the flashbacks of all your friends and like the sacrifice that you make, definitely it's a little cheesy. Like I of course I've seen that, but like nowadays it's really hard to be very new, innovating, creative. Sometimes you got to use the best in order to create something new.
Sure.
So after I saw the ending, and then I went back and I, saw it again and really trying to process all that information they were giving. They had some plot holes that I felt that I was just like, they didn't really explain this certain situation really well. And
now, were the plot holes situations that you think that BioWare, they left open for your own interpretation, or did you feel like they just missed out on an opportunity to fully explain to you what the story was?
Well, it's hard to, for my personal thing, I think they kind of left that out because of more DLC opportunity.
Okay.
That's your chance to then go on a mission that will explain, because I would only say this because the first DLC that they released was so much like information that filled up other plot holes in the series. Like
The Protheans.
the Prothean was explaining so much. I was like, why is this the DLC? Why can't this actually be a game? Because it makes the story better. I'm like, oh wait, they need to make money, because as much as game is an art, this game is a product, and this needs to be sold to consumers, and they need to make a profit, and they need to keep their company going, because it is a business.
Right.
And that's when I thought, okay, so I felt had these plot holes open just because they had the DLC ready to go, and they're gonna, air it out. And I don't know if it's a BioWare or an EA, but it's definitely a business model that more and more games are going to use.
Right, and that actually addresses S. Maxalot's fan feedback question. Do you think some games are intentionally left incomplete so the developer can put out paid DLC that is required to get the full experience? Do you think BioWare has done this with Mass Effect 3?
Because even Capcom is kind of guilty of that, leaving stuff
hardcore,
out.
Yeah.
Right.
Leaving stuff out so they can get DLC, money right there. Because
Capcom announced this week that they make no distinction between disc-locked content and downloadable content. There's
Yeah.
no difference as far as they're concerned.
They even have the same initials.
That's
good
very
job,
true.
Steven.
true.
Yeah.
But I
Good
mean,
job.
I think maybe it does take more companies. It's going to take more companies to be honest about it up front, because, like you said, at the end of the day, a lot of times it's easy to forget that it is a business. It's not one guy, like on the other end of the artistic spectrum. It's not one guy painting, doing his vision, and then he's got one painting, and maybe somebody will buy it, maybe somebody won't. But that painting is open to their own interpretation. This is like 1,000 dudes painting in their garage, and they all have families to feed, and they're just churning out prints as fast as they possibly can.
Yeah, because if they don't get paid for the art, this is just a hobby. they're
Exactly.
doing,
Right.
So.
Okay. So Nicole,
Yeah, hey, how are you?
you, on the other hand, did not like the ending at all.
Not a fan. No. All right, so let's start. So, the final assault on Earth, first of all, was just a level where they added a ton of Reaper enemies. It was, in my opinion, a kind of a lazy level design. There was no boss battle. In fact, the last thing you fight is Marauder Shields. Have you guys seen that YouTube video?
R.I.P.
The last thing you fight is a generic Turian Reaper enemy, and it was just, how can we make this difficult? Let's put 7 brutes in, and that's the lead up to the final battle. And then you get to the Crucible, and that's where the plot holes start. First off, I thought that the catalyst being the Star Child was ridiculous. I felt that they did a horrible job explaining what that was. I felt that it was too sci-fi. It was too third Matrix movie. It didn't make any sense. I know there were dream sequences throughout the game that hinted at that child. It was dumb, in my opinion. And then on the Crucible, I had 3 choices, none of which gave me an opportunity to investigate, to ask questions further. When the little kid told me that I had to destroy all synthetics, I couldn't argue that I convinced my AI bot and my pilot to fall in love, and I couldn't convince them that I got the Geth and Quarians to cooperate and to live peacefully, and I couldn't explain all those choices that over 3 games that I made that would negate what he's saying. So I felt like the shepherd up there wasn't my shepherd. And then the 3 choices I made all activated the exact same cutscene that varied by a color. That's it. All of my war assets, all of the multiplayer I played that they told me I had to play to get the best possible ending, only gave me the color green.
Green's awesome.
Green's a good color.
Sure.
It's the color of money.
Other things I like
There
are
it
green. And then there were all the plot holes, which was, why is the Normandy flying away? Why is Caden getting off the ship even though I saw him on Earth 5 seconds ago? Why, in a Mass Effect 2 DLC Arrival, it's established that if you blow up a mass relay, the entire galaxy around it is destroyed. Every war asset that I brought to the Earth's galaxy is stranded now, and then there was that stupid shit with the little boy and the grandpa at the end. Tell me another story of the shepherd grandpa.
That one I think we all
Bullshit.
agree was stupid.
But I'm pretty
Little
sure
corny.
I read on the internet, and that means it's true, that the VO of the grandpa was done by Buzz Aldrin.
It's true.
And
Yeah.
that's pretty
That's pretty
It's true.
badass.
Because he's really the only dude qualified to talk about space stuff, because dude's been in space.
Yes.
And that's pretty cool.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
read VO. And then
Okay.
the biggest issue is my choices did not matter.
Right.
And they said in numerous interviews, your choices matter. Of course we wouldn't not offer you more than, there will not be A, B, C choices. They said that exactly. You'll have infinite choices. It was said there would be 16 different endings, and my choices did not matter. You could play through this game and run through it in 15 minutes and get the exact same ending as me, who played all 3 games, perfect Paragon, did every mission, did everything.
So I want to expand on a couple of things. Then number one, and we're going to touch on that in a second, but Biotor60150 says, when did artistic integrity become the go-to excuse to cover for flat-out shoddy workmanship? The reason I'm reading this question is because your first kind of point of contention was that you felt like the level design was crappy towards the end of the game. It sounds to me like the level design was pushing. I mean, they're pushing it in a direction that to complete the story that BioWare themselves wanted to tell. So, do we feel like the artistic integrity of BioWare's team is an excuse to cover for that crappy level design?
I don't think it is.
Because I don't think BioWare. And again, I'm just speculating here, but I would assume BioWare says it's not really, we don't really care so much about the final boss battle because it's not about
Right.
a final
They
boss.
took out the final
Right.
boss battle.
Exactly,
In the
but-
Mass Effect art book, there is art for the elusive man, and he's this epic boss, and he has like tentacles and like it's ridiculous. And
Yeah,
they
are
took
you
that
glad
out.
they took that out, though? I mean,
No, I would have loved a final boss
All right.
battle. After 3 games, I wanted to actually kick Reaper ass. Sorry,
Right.
but I did.
And you did not get that.
Right.
No.
Now, do you feel
I had
that?
to push a button though.
So, what was why did they take that out? Do you think? I mean, was it an artistic
I
integrity
think it
thing?
was either a time restraint, a financial move to release DLC later, or it was some of the writers wanted a polarizing ending that would be artistic and talked about, and they didn't really care about fan response.
Okay, but I don't want to get off track here. But let's expand on that a little bit. Talking about time restraint, right? Which is, it's a reality of every game company that they have to get out games, in a certain time frame, except for Blizzard. So let's just seriously.
And Valve.
And
And
Valve.
Valve. But
They
let's
play by their own
let's say that BioWare has all the time in the world to make this game instead of saying, hey, we need to get it out for the end of the first fiscal or the end of the fiscal year, right? 'Cause
Right.
in April or whatever.
Yeah.
But let's say they have all the time in the world. Is the game different? Do you think that the
I think
time
so.
restraint was a big issue?
Yeah, I mean, it was delayed once before. It was supposed to come out in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I don't know. I don't feel like multiplayer felt tacked on, but I felt like its necessity was a lie.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like had they had more time, maybe they would have had more player feedback from QA testers.
Mm-hmm. Which is kind of going to Steve's point. Is that a dangerous thing, though,
I don't
to
think
start
so.
developing around players?
I think it is.
You think it is?
Who are games made for? Is it for your own artistic like because you're bored and you want to? I mean,
No, here's the thing.
It's a business.
If
Yeah.
you like games that are challenging and take risks and aren't afraid to
I don't
do
care
things,
about if the game takes risks.
but I mean, if you like plots that are challenging, if you like plots that take risks, the idea is you can't have something that's really worthwhile unless you take the risk of failing. And even if you think that the ending is a failure, they shot for something, and if they didn't hit it, they'll hit it next time. I mean, that's the way it works. If you just want generic and you want like a nice happy ending, or you
Why
want a
is
nice
happy
generic
ending
ending,
generic?
I'm just saying, if you want a generic
Depends on
ending,
where you get it.
If you want an
happy
ending,
ending.
if you want an ending that's very easy to understand and is acceptable
Yeah, I want that.
to everyone,
I'm sorry. That was
I'm going to let that slowly percolate.
Boom!
Slowly percolate and then brew into something.
Uh-huh.
It's weird, but I kind of agree with both of you guys. But at the end of the day, it's weird because it's a business and they need to make money, but I keep going back to the fact, and I don't know these people personally, but I got to go back to the guys and women that have spent half a decade of their lives on this thing, and it's really at the end of the day, it's like it's whatever Steve and Nicole at BioWare, whatever story they set out to tell, they should be entitled to tell that story because that's their thing, And I'm sure Ray and Greg would disagree, and I know their shareholders would disagree.
Yep.
But it's such a hard, fine line for them to walk, and I think that's one of the disappointing things for me, the public outcry. While everybody is certainly entitled to their opinion, I hope that people don't lose their jobs at BioWare because of this, because at the end of the day, all they were trying to do was make the game that they themselves
I don't
created.
think they will. I mean, the game still sold incredibly well,
Mm-hmm.
and in the long run, though, the Metacritic and Amazon reviews will affect sales. They just will. 'Cause
Right.
there will be consumers who aren't familiar with games, that don't read a lot of gaming blogs, and
Yep.
they'll see that game that has 2 stars, and they
And
won't
they'll
buy
be
that
like,
for their grandkid.
Yep,
That's-
wasn't good enough.
Little Timmy's not going to get that for his birthday because it got 2 stars.
isn't that a shame though? Wouldn't you rather little Timmy
Yeah,
have that?
well, maybe that's why you should make games for a bigger audience. You shouldn't make a game for yourself.
But it's not about making it for yourself. It's about
You should make a game for the biggest possible audience.
if you make a game for the biggest possible audience, you're aiming directly at the middle, and you're only going to end up with something that's
Well, so is it better to only appease a small select elite people?
no. It's best to shoot for the fences, to take risks, and to go for something that
I
is.
don't feel like this was a risk. I feel like this was they wanted to make a polarizing ending. They didn't know how to wrap up so many different storylines, and they just wanted to end the series.
Did you really feel that way? Like that they didn't have this ending in mind from the beginning?
No.
Really?
Well, then why wouldn't they have led up to it? Why the hell would
I
there be a
think they
ghost
did,
kid in
though.
front of me for no reason?
But I think they did lead up to it. I just all of the themes
the
and
theme of sacrifice, you're right. That definitely is.
all of those things played out in the ending. I mean, the theme of sacrifice.
Yep.
Like all the people that sacrificed themselves to save their worlds.
But it wasn't the fact that Shepard died that was the problem. It was the fact that no matter what I did, it was the exactly same
But
outcome.
you only get one ending anyway.
No, I mean, if I had liked this ending, I'd be playing the game again right now.
But what I'm saying is that the average a player, when you're being told a story, it only has one ending. A
But
story.
video games very often have multiple endings.
No, but your story, the one story that you're playing,
Which is the ending you picked.
has one ending.
The one you pick.
Well, it has the ending that's based on the choices that you made
Yeah.
at the end of the game.
Which is what I wanted.
But
I didn't get it.
But that's what you did get.
No, but it's not.
You got an ending.
You could choose to destroy all of the
Synthetic
technology
life.
in the galaxy.
Yeah.
You could choose to control the synthetics, or you could choose to synthesize them.
Synthesize.
Those are 3
80s
choices.
jazzercise.
And those are
Right.
Leg
3
warmers.
different endings.
I do feel like it would have helped a little bit. The ending would have helped if what they would have done after the credits rolled, or maybe even before the credits rolled, if they would have shown you what the next 50,000 years of life in the galaxy was based on what your decision was. Because again, like you said, there were 3. I know that cinematically they all played out the same for the most part, but there were 3 very distinct choices that you had to make that were going to affect the evolution of every sentient being in the galaxy. I thought anyway. That's what I took away
That's true.
from the
I agree.
ending. But I think a 5 to 6 minute cutscene showing how the galaxy developed from then on.
Even 5 hours later, I would take. Like, I just want to know. I just want some closure.
Now, do you think that maybe that is something that they're going to be including in this DLC? I feel like the
They're
clarification...
going to have like an extra cinematic, like just as you were explaining, an extra cinematic explaining what happened, or even an extended clip of the ending.
Of
so
the
you'll,
Joker clip.
Yeah, so you'll see more.
What happens to your crew? What happened to the Reapers?
How did they get?
I kind of want to see what kind of creepy, like, synthetic, organic life form that Joker and Edie end up making together, and what that actually
have organs. So
I killed all the technology.
You killed all the technology.
Yeah. So does that mean that my ending is less valid because they'll put out some DLC?
That's how you get the best possible ending.
Why is there a best possible ending?
Because if you get 5,000 effective war assets when you go to the final assault and you destroy the Reapers, at the very end it'll show Shepard in a pile of rubble, which is rubble of London, not the Citadel, and assuming it's Shepard, there's dog tags, can't see the face, and he gasps for air.
Okay, so that's the real ending.
That's
is
the
what
best.
you're saying.
No,
that's the best ending.
Possible ending.
But what if I don't like technology?
For you.
And the best ending for
Well,
me?
then that's
you're the one who wants the
best possible
choices.
ending.
You're the one who wants choices in the ending.
Yeah.
What about if I don't think? Because I don't think it's a good ending if Shepard lives. Like I don't think that's a good ending.
Well, he didn't live in yours, so it works out.
Right.
Everybody's
That's what I'm
happy,
saying.
right?
But if they
No?
explain, if they put out some other thing, some DLC where they explain that one ending is better than the other, that's not going to make
They're
me
not
feel
going to
good
explain
about
that.
my
They're just going to
ending.
explain
And does
what
it
happened
effectively
to...
remove any sort of emotional attachment you have to your ending if they explain further?
Because my ending was right for me.
Yeah.
And if there's DLC that comes out that happens after, and Shepard gets up from
Will
the
you
rubble,
download that
and
DLC?
But
perhaps I don't know. I'm just saying. Like
probably not. But
Yeah.
I thought that the ending for that was really satisfying. Like. Because I'm sort of maybe a hippie, so I don't want there to be technology. So I just want all the technology to be dead, and then it's all dead. And then I'm like, all right,
I don't
cool.
think hippies would want that.
Shepard gave his life so that all of the universe
Skynet
could
wouldn't
be,
exist.
Exactly.
I get it.
And so that's a good ending for me.
Right. I agree 100%. I mean,
I don't.
Again, man, it's so hard to like not play the fence on this, but at the end of the day, I really truly do feel like to each their own, and I hope that everybody enjoys whatever ending they wanted. We could talk about this obviously for hours, but we only have a couple more minutes, so I wanted to make sure that we got into this very last question. It's a very interesting one from Del Carnu. Says, what recourse should gamers have if they are unsatisfied with the game? Most retailers won't take open returns, so what should consumers be able to do when they get to the end and legitimately, and again, this legitimate is all relative here, but legitimately feel that it was bad enough to sour a $200+ investment in the trilogy? So again, operating under the assumption this is a legitimate argument to a business that says, we don't want to take your game back because you didn't like it. But
most products,
do
if
they
you
have
don't like
recourse?
it, you can return it.
Do they have? I mean, I don't think that most product, like I can't return like
I can't return like a movie ticket if I saw
You can.
Wrath of the Titans.
If you
Really?
can go up
I
there
can get my money back?
and you can bitch, and
But
they'll
not-
eventually give you your
Probably
money
not
back.
after the movie's over.
But what
that's
I'm
what I'm
assuming,
saying.
what I'm assuming they're asking here is not whether or not you can return, and it's very important to point out that he said a $200+ investment. I think what he's trying to say is like if they didn't like the end of Mass Effect 3, should they get
do?
all 200 of it? Like I want to return Mass Effect 1, I want to return Mass Effect
No.
2. Like
I
is
think
that
No,
he's
because-
asking what would be. How should he voice his opinion? He's being told by journalists he's not allowed to whine about it. He's being told by the retailers he's not allowed to return it. As a consumer, how does he tell EA he was unhappy? If you can't tell him with your
Stop
money,
buying
you
their
can't
games.
tell him with your voice. Can't get a time machine.
You can't.
and
You already
unbuy
bought it, of course.
I think Stephen. I mean, the most direct approach is to stop supporting that company. Would be the most direct and I think effective approach.
And plus, nobody's saying that people shouldn't be able to complain about endings or games all they want. I love people complaining about stuff. It's awesome.
right.
People are just saying that because you didn't like the ending doesn't mean you're entitled to a new ending. That's why people are
But no
were
one
called
thinks that they're
whiners.
entitled. They're just optimistic. They're just saying, hey, BioWare, we think that another ending would be rad.
So is there a better way to do this? I mean, and again, they asked Recourse, regardless of how the information got to the doctors of BioWare, something happened and they said, all right, we're going to provide more clarity. Should there be some sort of, and I'm just spitballing here, but like, is there some sort of like forum or a submission process that game companies could set up to make this more about, hey, here's why I'm upset, and less about you're an idiot, Flame Wars, idiot, you're entitled. You know what I mean? Like, should companies maybe establish some sort of submission process?
Usually they already do that with forums, like on BioWare. They have an actual thread that says submit anything you want to submit about the ending. It's totally. We're going to read through each one, and we're going to take that in consideration. And I know it's kind of like, look, you can't please everyone, right? So, of course, you're going to have a couple people who are not satisfied with your game, and they want their money back. But I think that $200 investment, you're not paying that just for the ending. You're paying that for the experience of that game. So if you had fun during that experience, I think your $200 investment was pretty... I think served well.
What if you sat there and hated it every second you were playing?
Yeah. If you
why do I keep playing this? Why do I keep spending money on it?
Why do I keep doing this? Then yes, there's a forum out there, and you can not support their products anymore, or be more aware of like maybe I'll rent their products, or maybe I'll read up and do more research than just it's going to be amazing, which is not. So maybe I'll wait and not buy it on the
For the
release
record,
date,
if you rent their products, then you got to pay $10 extra for the multiplayer.
Right.
No.
But it's interesting that it brings up a bigger point. We're talking about a group of people that bought Mass Effect 3 because 1 and 2 were so great. So I would assume for the most part, the level of satisfaction over the entire trilogy for most people is probably pretty high because they continued to buy the next chapter in the game. So I think a lot of people's experience, like you said, they're not seeing the forest for the trees, really, because they're letting this last thing. And I bring up the Dark Tower again. Steve and I were talking about this earlier. The Dark Tower series, I love. It's my favorite book series of all time. There was a lot of public outcry about the ending. Stephen King wrote another ending. Personally, I enjoyed the second ending better than the first ending. However, didn't matter to me because the other 6.5 books were so great that I didn't write Stephen King and go, give me back my $75 for the other 6 books.
Do you think that there were people who did email and post to forums and send tweets to his Twitter account?
I think not to this extent, mainly because, he wrote this over 30 plus years, so there's probably a lot of it wasn't as easily accessible.
It's books.
And it is.
Because book guys go, oh, my word.
Well, I think that maybe I should polish monocle, write it on a typewriter, and then send it off in a raven's claw.
I'll send a telegram.
Yeah, but I think what's interesting to point out is that it seems like most people were satisfied enough with how the game went to continue buying the game, but they're allowing this very last part to completely sully the entire experience. And you tend to think that the end should be what makes it great.
Because the ending wasn't
great.
It was just that because I loved playing Mass Effect 1 and 2 and 95% of 3. It's just that the ending, knowing that the ending is what it is, I'm probably never going to play those games again. And I wish I wanted to. I really wish that I wanted to go beat them again, and I don't because it's just not what I thought it was.
Now, do you think that fans would have been happier if they left an ending that was so incredibly open to interpretation that you got to kind of decide what happened based on your decisions? Or because again, I don't know what people are asking, should it have been like a cliffhanger and then it's like, I don't know what happens, and they're leave it to yourselves?
People wanted the end of Return of the Jedi. People wanted to be able to earn that. At least have it be an option. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I would have loved to have a freeze frame picture and little Ewoks walk around.
Nice.
I earned that.
Wouldn't fit really in the world, but
no,
I do appreciate it.
Neither did the Ghost Kid, so it's fair. Fine, Ghost Kids can be in the picture then.
Yeah.
I mean, there's ghost kids walking around everywhere, and the sooner we can acknowledge their existence, the better it'll be for us when they eventually do
I'm
rise
with Blair
up.
on Ghost Kids.
Yeah, that's right. He's got a couple in his house.
Oh, well, it's a different
He had
story.
4 kids, and there's only 2 living there. Do the math. You know what I mean? Do the math.
They should have listened.
All right. So
Wow, this episode almost didn't get weird. And then child
know, a
murder
whole
came
I guess
in.
it's good that we're wrapping this up. Again, I wish that we had more time to talk about this, but
indoctrination
we
theory.
don't, unfortunately. Maybe we can discuss the indoctrination theory some other time. But I do want to say thank you to Come On Now's Seriously and Enderwigan 1 and Elite Slayer. You guys all asked you asked great questions. We covered them in our discussion, but don't think we ignored you guys. It's just your conversation your questions kind of sparked the conversation, so thank you guys as well. Thank you guys so much for being here and for having the different opinions that you guys had. I wish we had more time to discuss this, but we don't, unfortunately. And for you guys being here as well, and for being so open on the forums about your opinions. We tried to read all of them. Your questions were phenomenal. Keep asking them. And I hope that we can have another game that people are so completely polarized by, so we can have this discussion again.
Max Payne 3.
Max Payne 3.
Come on, baby.
I don't think that ending's going to be left open to much interpretation.
Disappoint me with the ending, Max Payne. Come on.
So thank you guys for being here. As always, new episodes of Feedback every Wednesday at g4tv.com/feedback.
Whoa.